Hey all, Steve from GuitarNiche here. Well, this looks like a fun job. The owner of this US-made 2013 Strat informed me that he has tried twice to put in a bone nut, whether it's order in or like a prefab or whatever, I'm not sure. But we have a little fun job here to try to, we'll see if we can rescue this. But the first job is going to be getting that nut out. And I'm not quite sure what he used to glue it in. So I'm going to operate in a conservative fashion, but I'll go along my normal route. Now, the plan is to get this out, clean that up a little bit, simply cosmetic, and then I'm going to make a new nut for this. I prefer to make them from scratch. I just use whatever scraps I have around, or blanks and stuff, and it's all good. That way I know it's done properly, you might say. So just a couple of screwdrivers here, one for the bat and the other one for the hit. That's in there pretty good, I'll say that. Wow, holy cow. Well, we'll see if it will cooperate, and then we'll get to see what kind of damage is underneath. Oh, it seems to be loose, so that's good. Anyway, just my handy dandy end nippers here. If this snaps or breaks, because I heard a crack there, but oh yeah, see, well, it's gonna, oh my goodness, it's coming out in pieces. That's awesome. Okay, well, there you go. What the heck did he use? Oh, it's hard to say. Anyway, yeah, so this is the fun stuff, right? There we go. Okay. I mean, I said to him, at least you're trying. Maybe it didn't quite get where you wanted to be, but at least you tried. Give yourself some credit, But at the same time, he was wise enough to say, okay, enough is enough. I give up. Okay? Some people are not handy as they could be, you might say. So anyway, our next job here is to try to rejuvenate this void in the wood, and we'll see what we can do. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have some wood dust here. Actually color matched it with a couple of variations, and I'm just going to hit it with a couple of drops of CA glue. Not worried about putting a dam in there to try to counteract the the slot and stuff like that. So that's pretty dark, eh? Well, it'll clean up, I'm sure. Good. Okay. I might have to hit it a second time with another layer, or to maybe fill some voids that pop up, but we'll get to that. A real quick hit with the file. It's just something to take off the meat. Yeah. Yeah, that hardened up really good. Okay, super duper. Now, it might look a little crude, but trust me, it'll work. .600 sandpaper. Okay. Well, after a little bit of tinkering, I used the furniture touch-up markers to, well, turn a sow's ear into a little bit more of a silk purse. It ain't perfect, but it looks like it fits. Anyway, it's better than it was. Okay, on to the nut job. Okay, so I have the blank cut, or roughed in, I should say, and that's just fitting nicely. Now I'm going to try to get that kind of centered, and the trick here is, as I draw a pencil line on the other face, you'll see there's a curve. So we have to match the curve to the slot. Alrighty, so this is the fun part. Now I'm just going to use literally just a belt sander and remove the meat of that, and then I'll true it up and I'll show you how that's done. This is just a piece of 600 sandpaper, and laying it over the fretboard. By the way, I ground that fairly tight to the pencil line, so we will see what we can see. Yep. Okay. Now you'll notice there's not a whole lot coming out through the middle, and I'm going to check that in the light. Okay. I also want to make sure that these ends here are flush, because we don't want to see those canted in any way. All right. Likewise. All right. So we'll see how that fits. I'm going to use a little bit of 220 here, just to make sure that a good bite on that. And what I'll also do is mark up the bottom here. A little bit of pencil. At the end of the day, what's really going to matter is how well those edges line up with the edge of the fretboard. Okay, so let's have a look at that side, not too shabby, and the other side, if we can see that. Oh boy, a little leftover junk from the previous excavation. By the way, I did have to I had to true up the slot a fair bit. Not too bad, but that's good. As far as fit, this thing creaks when it goes in there, which is Super duper. Well, I'm not 100% on that just yet, but let's make sure we're not getting a misread from a shadow, because that can be all bad. Shadows are all bad. Yeah, that's good. So next job is getting that profile, getting the blank down to where it needs to be. So that's the edge of the fretboard. So that's pretty consistent along its length, which means it's sitting pretty. I'm pretty happy with that. So the next job will be knocking this down, the height down, and making sure that the width is on spec and stuff like that. I'll be right back. All right, so this is our rather funky looking blank at the moment. You'll see that that would be the treble side and that would be the bass side, and it's fairly thinned out. I tend to like to keep things pretty close to the end result and true up the last remaining bits by hand. So I'm just using a double cut file here. It's got to be, you can feel it, it's got to be just married to that surface just right. Those outer edges. And it can be just a couple of file strokes. Oop. That's it. That is it. Okay. So let's see what we got. I'll clean up any of the file marks too, but that's a pretty tight fit. And if we can get a shot on the other side, that is a reasonably good fit considering the chunk that was left over. So here's the original, unoriginal, and as I said, I wasn't a fan of those notches, so but I will go at it this way. Okay, that's where they line up. Okay, now let me see if I can put it this way. As the instrument is buffed, finished, sanded, and stuff like that, what we get is a flaring kind of action as we head towards the headstock. This has been, it's almost like it's been rolled over, like it's very comfortable. The US made stuff is really comfortable in the hand, and this is a soft edge, but it's not quite as soft up here. So like I said, I'm just going to eyeball this. And I can shuffle things around as I see fit. As long as it looks relatively even, it's all good. Rule of thumb with Fender type instruments is, your Strats and Tellys, is 1/8 of an inch in from each side. And that's usually a good go. And then I'm just going to give that just a starter notch. And all I'm going to do is just eliminate that pencil. All this is doing is just giving me an approximation as to where I need to be, because there's still a lot of truing up and tinkering to do yet. Your string winder. Once again, leaving the old strings on. to do the job. Get out our trusty starter files. I'm going to walk that first string in just a hair. That makes me happy. There we go. That makes me happy. And that is dead straight on the tuner. Sometimes you'll see the string, the excursion of the string will be, you know, deflected because the tuners don't line up along their travel. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay, so it's critical that we get our string slots equally distant. They look good. Looks good, feels good. It's all good. The strings are perfectly straight from the tuners along through the fingerboard. Looks great. We are ready to glue the nut in, so it's been roughed in very nicely. I've got my plugged up tight bond here. Oh boy. All right. Let's get, yeah, okay. I'm going to put a little bit of that on my bench. Why? Because if there's hardened particles in there, I don't want them winding up underneath the nut in the slot and making a mess of things. Okay. So I just kind of purge the end here, and I'm just going to put a little dab there and roll it around. Another little dab here and roll it around, and another one in the middle. I might get that one a little closer to the end. Good. We got a few moments working time here, so we're all good. I've double checked the fit, made some really small adjustments. There we go. Okay, and that should squeeze out. I'm gonna pop that in there and press that in and make sure that that is exactly where I want it to go. Before I put the strings on, I'm going to hit this real fast with some sandpaper, 600, just to take out the some of those tooling marks that were on there. You know, there's all sorts of ways we can come at this. Some generations of Strat nuts, or even Telly nuts, will have a really pronounced roll on them. They'll be almost like a dome, like a fret, and that's really quite simple. You just take your fret file and you have at it. Treat it like a fret. Simple as that. Okay. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go to town on this, but you get the idea, you know? And it works. It really does work like a charm. But at the end of the day, you want to take off at least this leading edge here, because, I mean, just the sharp corner. You don't want to get into the front face of the nut. You just want to take or relieve that sharp corner, because when you're playing, you know, you're going to feel it. And it's literally going to be a little irritating until it wears in. All I'm trying to do is just put a nice little finish on this. It's got a nice little, you know, pseudo polish on it. A little bit of close up on that. It's got a nice little sheen to it. Now to cut the slots to depth. I've got a couple of other videos on this, but this is my preferred method, using light. Okay, now the strings are literally sky high, and I'll make a couple comments beforehand here. The neck is dead straight. That's going to give me a little bit of insurance. I can do. This is a 50 thou needle file that I'm using. And what I'm looking for is a gap of light closer to the thickness of the A string. How did I figure that out? Well, you measure, you cut nut slots too low, and that's how that works. This is a 38. A couple thou wider than the string, because if it's exactly the same as the string, the string itself will bind. I leave a little bit more air on the E string because the low E string gets pretty excited. Although right now, I'll tell you right now, it's too high, because by the time I introduce relief and stuff, it's just gonna look nutty. Okay. These are Hosco files. All sorts of wonderful tools on the market these days, but back in a long time ago, let's say, I used anything I could. Sometimes I would take a hobby saw, put it on a grinder, you know, the little hobby saw blades, put them on a grinder, grind the thickness down. It works like a champ. That's looking not too bad. Okay. Once I get down to the nitty-gritty, I'll take a file that's closer to the dimension. See, there's lots of room in there. And I'll start to knock it in a little tighter. Yes, this is a 20 I'm using on a 16. Sorry, 17, I should say. Okay, so, and now we're going to use a 16 gauge on our 13 thou. You don't want to force it. There, that's just dandy. Okay, yeah, because these things will snap. This is a 13 I'm going to use on the high E string. A little more. You can get pretty tight with the first string because it doesn't require a lot of height. That's not bad. If you're following along, let's use the thickness of the A string. Okay. I'm essentially doubling, or I want to see the same thickness of the A string in terms of a light gap, and perhaps a little bit more for the low E. As I said, the A is kind of double. The D is still, actually that's still a little proud, so I'm gonna knock that down just a hair. That's better. Okay. Yeah, so the D string will be up a little bit, the G string will be up a little bit, the B string is roughly the same as the A, and the E string can get really tight. Like, that's actually still, in my books, very, very high. But we're gonna wait. The final cut will be done when the guitar has the strings at pitch, and there is the right amount of relief in the neck. At that point, it's in its optimal playing position. Therefore, the nut needs to be cut to be working together with the relief and the height of the strings at the bridge. So this is our fixed point. A very, very, very important part of the whole process. Taking time to cut this properly is imperative. Okay. Yeah, relief is bang on. So we are good to go. So let's see, and our string height, it's fine. And where are we as far as our final cuts? I still want to have that neck a little bit straighter. Again, it's all about insurance. I really don't want to have to recut or repair a freshly cut nut. There we go, it's straight, it's too straight, which is exactly where I want it to be. Okay, now I'm gonna finalize this. This is a 10 thou. And just by canting it a little bit back and forth, I can get it where I need it. Beauty. There's that. And I'm going to use a 16 on a 17, believe it or not. Yes, a 16 on a 17. Because you get a little aggressive with that. That's a great thing right there. See? That's going to wind up as peachy. So when I'm not using any real pressure, I'm kind of almost like polishing the bottoms of the nut slot. Just cleaning out some garbage, getting a good look-see at my string height. That's great. That's super duper. If I have to recut them, I'll recut them, not a problem. But I'd rather do it, I'd rather creep into where I need to be than commit right from the get-go. That's great. That was a 38, and that one was more or less dead on. And the low E. Well, let's get that a little bit out of the way. There we go. Oh, did we hit that? Oh, we just kissed it a little bit. Great, super. Okay, where are we at tuning wise? Now you're gonna hear some buzzing and stuff, but I'm not playing the strings are being excited in a non-playing way. You know, you hit any string hard enough and it'll buzz. So don't get all squirrely on me about that. This is a 10 thou. That's a 10 thou string. That slot, ideally, I want it to be about 11 thou. At the end of the day, the string has to ride back and forth. So that's pretty much that. Now the last, very last thing I would say, or in the process here, is to sit and play the instrument, make sure that it's, you know, everything is dialed in appropriately. If I have to make any super small adjustments, I will. And finally, the very last thing, once the setup is all done, is I will take a little bit of lubricant, pop it in the slots there because they're fresh cut, and it will just help move them along. You can use you know, whatever suits your fancy. There's lots of stuff out there. So there you have it, sports fans. Okay, so there's a repair, but it turned out just fine. As always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve from GuitarNiche. And as always, play loud, have fun, have a great day. Like and subscribe. Always appreciate you guys you know, taking the time. And read the description below for some lovely free resources, okay? And thanks for coming out. See ya!